Have you ever felt the pain of dedicating yourself to someone who simply doesn't appreciate you? That feeling of doing everything you can, of being there, yet still seeming invisible? I know how much that hurts. It feels like your effort is never enough, like nothing you do can change the way you're treated. I've been through that, and the frustration of not being recognized can be devastating. But what I've learned is that there's no point in continuing to wear yourself out for someone who doesn't see your worth. Today, I want to show you how to turn that pain into strength. There are 9 attitudes that will not only free you from that feeling, but also make those who don't appreciate you realize what they've lost. These lessons, inspired by Stoicism, will leave these people confused and even desperate, because you will become someone who no longer depends on anyone's approval. When you have control over your emotions, everything around you changes. I know that often, we feel shaken by the actions of those who don't value us, but true strength lies in not allowing yourself to be swayed by it. Emotional control isn't just about keeping calm in difficult moments, but about showing that you are in charge of yourself, that nothing and no one can destabilize you. You know, I've been through moments where I allowed others' behavior to affect my well-being. It's frustrating, and often we find ourselves asking, why doesn't this person value me? But the truth is, the more we try to understand or change someone else's behavior, the more we lose ourselves. What I learned is that the focus shouldn't be on others, but on me, on my emotions, on my self-confidence. That confidence comes when you realize the power is in your hands. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, it's not the events that affect us, but the view we take of them. The person who doesn't value you should not be the reason for your despair or anxiety. In fact, they should feel the opposite. When you show that you are in control of your emotions, that you don't depend on external validation or recognition, perceptions change, and those who don't value you start to feel lost, unsure of how to react to your strength. Have you ever stopped to think about how someone would react if they expected you to beg for attention, but instead found a firm, self-assured person? That's the impact of having emotional control and self-confidence. It's not about distancing yourself from emotions, but knowing how to use them to your advantage. You begin to act consciously, without being driven by impulses or the desire to be accepted. It's liberating. When you take control of your emotions, the people around you notice this change, and often, those who once didn't value you begin to see how special you are. But by then, it may be too late. I remember a friend who went through something similar. He was always seeking approval and acceptance from a person who never truly valued him. This left him frustrated, restless, but one day, he decided he wouldn't let it affect him anymore. He began to invest in himself, in his emotions, and in his self-confidence. It wasn't easy, but the change was noticeable. From the moment he put himself first, something curious happened. The person who once ignored him started to feel unsettled, almost desperate to regain his attention, all because he learned to value himself and gained emotional control. And that's exactly what I want to tell you today. When you have self-confidence and emotional control, you change the dynamics of any relationship. And believe me, it has a profound impact on those who don't appreciate you. So, if there's one thing I want you to take away and comment here today, it's, I control my emotions, and that strengthens me. This is the mantra you should repeat. Not only does it strengthen you, but it also sends a clear message to those around you. You don't depend on anyone to be happy or fulfilled. As Seneca would say, in calmness lies strength. Those who don't value you will feel the weight of that. And when they realize what they've lost, it may already be too late. Before we move on to the second attitude, I'm making my latest ebook available, Beat Procrastination with Stoic Philosophy, the ultimate guide to success. In this ebook, I reveal the secret techniques used by great philosophers to eliminate procrastination. Are you looking for a life of success and to overcome your vices? Click on the first pinned comment and download my ebook right now. Let's continue. Silence is one of the most powerful weapons you can have. In a world where everyone feels the need to react, justify themselves, or respond to provocations, being able to remain silent is a sign of unshakable self-control. It's interesting to think that often, the most impactful response is not what we say, but rather the absence of a response. I've been in situations where my first impulse was to respond, to defend my position, to prove that I was right. But over time, I realized that true strength lies in knowing when to say nothing. Silence unsettles. It breaks the expectations of those trying to provoke you. When you don't react as they expect, You take control of the situation. The Stoics taught that silence is not passivity, but a strategy. As they said, it's not about accepting everything in silence, but about choosing your battles wisely. By choosing silence, you are showing that nothing the other person says or does can shake you. Your value doesn't depend on the opinion or words of others. Have you noticed how some people seem desperate for a reaction? They want to see you crumble, to lose control. But when you respond with silence, you show that you have an inner strength they can't understand. That is the true power of silence. It leaves the other person confused, not knowing how to react, because they expected you to fall into the trap of argument or provocation. I remember a situation where this became very clear to me. Someone was constantly provoking me, doing everything possible to make me lose my temper. At first, I always responded, justified myself, and got involved in the argument. But after learning about the power of silence, I decided that I would no longer react, and it was exactly this that unsettled them. Suddenly, they no longer knew how to get to me, because I wasn't giving them what they expected, a reaction. Silence spoke louder than any words ever could, and that's what I want to convey to you. Silence speaks much louder than words in certain situations. It's a sign of strength, of self-confidence, of knowing your worth and not needing to prove anything to anyone. This is something that leaves those who don't value you completely lost, unsure of how to deal with your firm and controlled stance. If you've experienced this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Next time someone tries to provoke you, try using the power of silence. Believe me, the impact is profound. As the philosopher Marcus Aurelius said, "The stronger the soul, the less it needs to speak." So, the message I want to leave today is simple and direct. Silence is my response. Write this in the comments to remind yourself that you will always use silence as your answer. When you master the power of silence, it creates space for something even more powerful: emotional balance. After all, it's not just about staying silent, but also about how you react internally. And this is where the true art lies, the art of not reacting impulsively. This balance confuses even more those who expect you to explode. Let's talk about this. Emotional balance is like an anchor. It keeps you steady, even in the most turbulent storms. Often we find ourselves in situations where the first reaction that comes to mind is impulsive, to respond aggressively, to make a decision in the heat of the moment, or to act without thinking. But when you manage to control that impulse, you elevate yourself. Not reacting impulsively confuses those around you, especially those expecting an outburst of emotions. I know it's not easy. How many times have we faced provocations that seem tailor-made to push us over the edge? In those moments, our mind screams for an immediate response, something to give back what we've received. But this is where true strength comes in. Resisting the temptation to react in the heat of the moment, the ability to pause, take a deep breath, and act calmly is what sets you apart. This not only demonstrates deep emotional balance, but also completely disarms those who were expecting an explosive reaction. The philosopher Seneca said, "To rush is to lose control. To act calmly is to master the situation." And that's exactly what happens when you practice emotional balance. It's not about suppressing what you feel, but about being able to channel those emotions constructively. You gain power over yourself in the situation when you don't give in to impulse. Think about what it would be like to be in an argument where the other person is visibly agitated, expecting you to lose control. Instead of reacting, you remain calm, observe the situation, and choose not to respond in the same way. The impact of this is immense. The person provoking you is left not knowing how to proceed, because the dynamic they expected, a heated exchange, doesn't materialize. They expected an explosion, but what they get is serenity, and that unsettles them. I recently went through such a situation. Someone expected me to react aggressively to a criticism, but instead of giving in to the impulse to retaliate, I chose to breathe, stay balanced, and respond in a measured way. The result was unexpected. The person was left speechless, unable to continue the argument, and I felt an inner satisfaction, not from winning the argument, but from gaining control over my own emotions. This ability to not react impulsively also brings peace. When you master this art, you stop being a hostage to other people's emotions, and those who don't value you, who try to provoke you, end up disarmed. After all, they relied on your impulsive reaction to keep the cycle of disrespect going. Now, I want you to think about all the situations where you could have reacted differently, where perhaps impulsivity took over, and now reflect on what it would be like to maintain control. What would the impact be on your relationships? The truth is, Emotional balance is a silent but incredibly powerful weapon. And when you maintain emotional balance, something even deeper happens. You become self-sufficient. It's not just about controlling your reactions, but about realizing that you don't depend on anyone to feel complete. Being self-sufficient is one of the greatest demonstrations of power and freedom that you can have. And the curious thing is, the more you show that you don't need anyone's approval or help, the more people begin to respect you. Self-sufficiency doesn't mean isolating yourself or not accepting help from others, but rather knowing that you can walk on your own without being emotionally or materially dependent on anyone. When you live with this awareness, you are no longer at the mercy of what others think or do. And this freedom, this sense of power, is something that those who don't value you will immediately feel. I remember a situation when I realized the strength of self-sufficiency. I was in an environment where many people depended on others' validation, always seeking approval for every action they took. But at a certain point, I realized that I didn't need that. I knew what I wanted. I knew my worth, and that completely changed the dynamics of my interactions. Suddenly, people began to see me in a different light, with more respect, with more consideration, not because I demanded it, but because they realized I wasn't seeking their approval anymore. Being self-sufficient means that you are enough, and when you are enough, those who didn't value you before start to see how strong you are, because you no longer need anything from others to be happy or fulfilled. And this naturally makes them feel as though they've lost their power over you. From the moment you show yourself to be self-sufficient, the game changes completely. As Aristotle said, happiness depends on ourselves. When you internalize this, you start to understand that your strength, your worth, and your happiness come from within, not from what others say or do. This is the pinnacle of freedom. Those who don't value you feel this as a blow because they expected you to depend on their approval. So, I want you to hold on to this phrase and write it in the comments. I am enough, and that sets me free. Leave your comment. I want to know how you apply this in your life. When you achieve self-sufficiency, something magical happens. You begin to focus on what truly matters. And this brings us to the next point. Focusing on the essential is a skill that completely changes your life, bringing an inner peace that confuses those who try to destabilize you. I remember a time when my mind was always full of distractions. Everything seemed important. Everything demanded my attention. And I felt lost, like I was running in circles. But then, one day, something changed. I was speaking with a mentor who said something simple yet powerful. If everything is a priority, nothing is a priority. This made me stop and reflect. I realized that I was spending energy on things that deep down didn't really matter. Responding to minor provocations, worrying about what people thought, getting lost in tasks that added no value to my life. That's when I decided to cut all that out, to eliminate trivial distractions and focus on the essential. And the peace that followed was indescribable. When you focus on what truly matters, you begin to see things more clearly. Those who once tried to destabilize you with minor provocations, criticism, or demands are now left bewildered, not understanding how you managed to stay so calm and centered. And that clarity makes all the difference. The person trying to bring you down expects you to be scattered, busy with many things at once, unsure of where to look. But when you focus on the essential, you become a fortress, unshakable. I remember a specific situation where this became clear. Someone in my circle was always trying to distract me with negative comments or criticisms, seemingly designed to throw me off balance. In the past, I'd fall into that trap, wasting my time and energy trying to justify myself or prove something. But after learning to focus on the essential, I began to completely ignore these distractions. Suddenly, that person had no power over me. They were confused, not understanding how I could carry on unshaken by their words. I had found my peace, and that's the true secret of focusing on the essential. It gives you an inner peace that no one can take from you. As Seneca once said, life is not short, but we waste much of it. When you choose what's truly important, you gain control of your time, your energy, and your peace. We're halfway through the video, and if you've made it this far, I ask you to leave a like so I can bring more content like this in the future, and write in the comments. Which phrase ignited the spark for your change? If you're not sure what to say, just write, I choose the essential, and it brings me peace. This activates a trigger for change in your mind. Let's continue. When you start to focus on the essential, something else becomes even clearer. The importance of setting boundaries. Setting clear boundaries in your relationships is not just about protecting your time and energy, but about showing yourself and others the respect you deserve. Setting boundaries is an act of self-love. Often we feel pressured to say yes to everything, to be available for everyone, and to not let anyone down. But the truth is, if you don't set your own boundaries, no one will do it for you. And without boundaries, you end up drained, letting others invade your space and overwhelm you. I understand that it can be hard to say no. It may feel like you're being rude or insensitive, but in reality, it's quite the opposite. By setting boundaries, you're showing that you value your time, your peace, and most importantly, your well-being. And those who truly value you will understand and respect those boundaries. Those who don't respect them simply aren't aligned with what you need in your life. I remember a time when I was constantly available for everyone, always meeting others' expectations. The result? I was exhausted, with no time for myself, and felt like I was never able to focus on what truly mattered. That's when I decided to change. I started saying no when necessary, defining what was acceptable for me and what wasn't. And do you know what happened? People began to respect me more. They understood that my time and peace had value. And with that, I felt stronger, more in control of my own life. Setting boundaries isn't about pushing people away. It's about ensuring that the relationships you have are healthy and respectful. It's not about being inflexible, but about being clear about what you need to maintain your inner peace. And by doing this, you create a safe space for yourself where you can grow, develop, and become stronger. So if you're still struggling to set boundaries, know that it's part of your journey of self-discovery and growth. Start small, be firm, and know that your peace is worth more than any external approval. The people who truly matter in your life will respect that. And more importantly, you will feel freer, more at peace, and with a renewed sense of power over your own life. Remember, your boundaries are a reflection of the respect you have for yourself. By setting those boundaries, you're not distancing yourself from others. You're protecting and caring for yourself, and that is something that will only make you stronger. After establishing clear boundaries, you discover an even more valuable ally: time. The wisdom of time is something few can master, but when you do, those who try to pressure you become frustrated. Why? Because they expect a quick response, an impulsive action. But when you choose to use time to your advantage, you grow even stronger. The truth is, time is a powerful tool for those who know how to use it. When you don't act in the heat of the moment but instead take time to reflect, you make wiser, more conscious decisions. And those who are pressuring you realize they don't have the control they thought they did. You're not manipulated by others' urgency. You are the master of your own time. I found myself in situations where the impulse was to respond immediately, to give a quick answer just to get the problem over with. But over time, I've learned that this is not the best approach. When you step back and choose to use time as your ally, clarity comes. You start to see things from a different, calmer perspective, and you realize that not everything needs to be resolved with urgency. Often, the simple act of waiting solves the situation on its own. Think of those times when you were pressured to make a decision or respond to a provocation. Now, imagine if, instead of reacting impulsively, you had taken a moment to breathe, reflect, and only then acted. The difference this makes is immense. You feel more in control, more serene, and those who are trying to pressure you realize that their strategy has failed. The wisdom of time is also a way to protect your inner peace. When you act without haste, without giving in to external pressure, you give yourself the necessary space to act with clarity and intention. And others sense this. They see that you are not someone who can be easily pressured or manipulated, and this completely changes the dynamic of the relationship. Marcus Aurelius, one of the great Stoic thinkers, said, "Time is like a river. You cannot touch the same water twice, for the current that has passed will not return." This phrase reminds us that time is precious and irreversible, and so we must use it wisely, not hastily. So, if you feel you're being pressured to make quick decisions, remember, time is your ally. Use it to your advantage. Reflect, and only then act. You will see how this frustrates those who expected an immediate reaction, and more importantly, it will bring you a sense of control and peace. After learning to use time wisely, something even more powerful emerges: the practice of gratitude. It may seem contradictory at first, but responding with gratitude, even in the face of criticism or negativity, is one of the most effective ways to disarm anyone, while also reinforcing your own serenity. Gratitude has a transformative effect. When someone criticizes or tries to negatively affect you, what do they expect? A defensive reaction, perhaps even a heated argument. But when you respond with gratitude, It completely changes the game. Instead of entering into the cycle of negativity, you break it with something unexpected, the recognition that even criticism has something to teach us. I remember a situation where I was the target of an unfair criticism that caught me off guard. My first reaction was irritation, and I wanted to retaliate, but then I paused, took a breath, and remembered the importance of gratitude. Instead of reacting impulsively, I thanked the person for the criticism. I thanked them because, in some way, it made me reflect, gave me an opportunity to grow and become stronger. What happened next was surprising. The person was completely disarmed, unsure of how to continue the conversation. I left the situation calmer, more serene, and at peace with myself. Responding with gratitude doesn't mean that you are accepting negative behavior or agreeing with unfair criticism. In fact, it means that you choose not to be affected by it. You choose to look within and see what you can learn, or even strengthen. And by doing so, you keep your inner peace intact, while leaving the other person unsure of how to proceed. Seneca said, "Gratitude is not only the greatest of virtues, but the parent of all the others." This reminds us that when we practice gratitude, we nurture other virtues in ourselves, such as patience, self-control, and serenity. The practice of gratitude puts you in a position of power, but not power over others, rather power over yourself. You no longer need to react to negativity or criticism defensively or with resentment. Instead, you choose to be grateful, to learn, and to move on, stronger and more serene. So, the next time someone criticizes you or tries to bring you down, try responding with gratitude. Believe me, it will disarm the other person and leave you at peace with yourself. After going through all these transformations, we arrive at one of the most powerful pillars of Stoicism: resilience. Stoic resilience is the ability to grow in the face of challenges and adversities, to become stronger amidst difficulties. And this is something that deeply confuses those who try to devalue your effort. They expect you to falter, to give up in the face of obstacles. But when you respond with resilience, the impact is overwhelming. Life is not a straight line. It tests us, challenges us in ways that often seem unfair. But it's precisely in these moments that resilience becomes your greatest virtue. It's when things get tough that you find the true strength within you, the one that grows with every obstacle overcome. Every difficulty, every criticism, every challenge is an opportunity to become stronger, wiser, and more prepared. I've been through moments when everything seemed to go wrong. Criticism came from all sides. Difficulties seemed insurmountable, and all I wanted was to give up. But instead of giving in, I chose resilience. I chose to stand up, learn from every fall, and keep going. And do you know what happened? Those who expected to see me fail were left perplexed, because while they thought they were knocking me down, I was growing. With every adversity, I became even stronger. That's the beauty of resilience. It transforms pain into power, defeat into learning, and failure into a new opportunity. Those who try to devalue your effort expect you to give up, but what they don't know is that you're just getting started. As Marcus Aurelius said, "What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, the obstacles you face are not barriers, but rather part of your growth. And this is exactly what I want you to take with you. With every challenge, I grow. And don't just repeat it, but write it in the comments. Share your resilience, inspire others to do the same. Because the more you grow, the more you inspire those around you to rise as well. Don't miss the opportunity to check out my latest ebook, Overcome Procrastination with Stoic Philosophy, the ultimate guide to success. In this ebook, I reveal the secret techniques that great philosophers use to eliminate procrastination. If you seek a life of success and overcoming your vices, click on the first pinned comment and download my ebook now. Now that we've gone through each of these lessons, remember that you hold the power to transform your life in your hands. Whether through strategic silence, resilience in the face of challenges, or focus on what truly matters, every action brings you a step forward. If anything has become clear here, it's that you are stronger than you think. And I want to know, which of these teachings resonated with you the most? Leave your comment, like the video, and subscribe so you don't miss the next content. Together, let's continue this journey of growth.